Hello. This week I'm joined by Professor Emmeline Taylor, and we're looking at the often overlooked problem of cash loss and the latest initiatives that retailers told us that they were looking at in their pursuit of an improved position. Well, look, we had a chance to look at a minority sport, a niche sport in the world of loss prevention, which was cash loss management. And actually, it drew a lot of attention. And we went for the full 90 minutes and probably could have gone for more. We had huge engagement from retailers. We had 3 really great presentations to kick off the discussion. And a lot more to this than meets the eye, even though participation of cash is, on the decline. It's still sizable, and it's something that needs management, and perhaps the complexities of retail, has sort of caught up with and is now catching up and facing into the real world of how you manage cash in the context of especially of self-checkouts, but also productivity challenges, whether or not to have your own cash office, etc. So really fascinating, but many people obviously weren't able to attend. But what were your sort of lessons or insights and takeaways for those that couldn't attend, and the sort of summary of what we heard?
Do you know, Colin, I'll hold my hands up. I didn't know a huge amount about cash loss before this session. And in my naivety, I just thought, this is surely a really simple problem to solve. And wow, was I enlightened about how complex some of these issues are. And so I was hugely grateful to the 3 presenters who talked about how they were tackling this, because they began by talking about the definitions and the typology of all the different ways that cash loss manifests, whether that's internal theft, that thorny issue, whether it's through operational issues and complexities on around how you cash count and deposit cash, and then also counterfeit and fraudulent notes, and being smarter on detecting those at the time. So the discussion that we had was really sort of bringing to light these different ways that it happens, and the trends over the years as well of how cash loss increases, decreases, or simply changes the way that it occurs. I was really interested in some of the emphasis around engaging and educating store colleagues around how to handle cash, and particularly around internal theft as well, that perhaps, sometimes the culture within store didn't always sort of signify to individuals that it might be problematic, the way in which they were, sort of managing sort of cash transactions. What did you think in that space around that education and engagement?
Yeah, I mean, we've been covering it quite recently with some student work up at Loughborough, and there's a real sensitivity to sort of like, oi, don't stop stealing, don't steal the cash. It's sort of like it's that sort of message that people don't want to sort of communicate. And I think again, as cash loss has been deprioritized, internal theft is always deprioritized because of the difficulty, and cash loss is even more deprioritized, perhaps because of the changing nature. But actually, as we've done that, we've removed some of the controls that perhaps open up some of the opportunities that everyone can become a criminal, as you've often taught us. If we're presented with the right opportunity, as we drive along the road and break the speed limit.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what some of the retailers are really looking to do is around feedback loops as well. So you can have these campaigns or posters or training that sort of suggests, don't steal from us. But if you never know sort of that anybody ever gets caught, you might begin to sort of ignore those messages. So there was this real emphasis on, highlighting when somebody had been caught, on what they'd done.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, the first presenter talked about how they'd halved cash loss. They didn't say how much that was, but we assume it was a big number. Literally through those 4 E's that they talked about. Part of it was about engaging, educating, And it was about sort of, that simple things that, when you have new hires, if they're, teach them about the cash procedures. When you've got a regional manager, go around and sort of like bring out some of the top tips. Have a month where you're dedicating yourself to cash loss. Build back the reporting that you perhaps have walked away from in previous years. So it was really encouraging to see how good management and going back to basics, emphasizing the importance of discipline, compliance, knowing what the right thing to do is, both the associate, but also giving the store manager and the regional manager also instructions on knowing what to look for and what to ask for. And just those actions that were highlighted, that can, over a period of time, I think it was like 6 months or so, bring your cash loss down by half. It's incredible.
I know, that is incredible. And one of the other E's that presenter talked about, which was music to my ears, was that they actually evaluated what they were doing. So often we see, we see that set and forget mentality, don't we? We've made the investment. We don't need to know now whether it works or not. So yeah, having that evaluation built in, I thought was, very pleasing to me. Do I picked up on a bit of a spectrum as well in terms of, how complicated some of these systems were. So, there were some brilliant examples of very simple changes to processes, to practices, and how this could, save time, save money, save, staffing hours in terms of, how are they counting cash? Do they need to count the cash? How are they bundling it up? And, just really simple switches. I think you'd almost be blind to in a way, because it was just, one of the retailers talked about how they'd done the same thing for 30 years and then suddenly realised switching could save, a lot of money. But at the other end of the spectrum, we're seeing more intelligence based solutions being used. So one individual was talking about intelligent cash deposits. Another was talking about fraud analysis on the point of sale to be able to pick up any sort of, undesirable behaviours, and then also those intelligent counterfeit detectors as well. So there seems to be this really broad range of solutions that are being used.
As you say, there's a big cultural piece to this as well. Well, I normally walk the cash to the bank. What are you saying? I don't do that anymore. I normally use a little bit of paper. I've got to use a rubber band now. Really? But these were some of the simple things that you put. But also fascinating to your point about, one of them talked about using sort of exception-based reporting tools to identify, those strange behaviours. Why was the till left open for so long, and how was no receipts or voids. It was a truly fascinating session, and thank you so much for drawing out those lessons that people can take away. So work on the sort of simple, but also with a mind to all some of the more futuristic ways in which this could be automated and made more intelligent with smart alerts.
Definitely. I learned so much. And I think, sort of summarising the whole discussion, it really spoke to some really tried and tested criminological concepts around how do you increase the effort of those that are criminally minded. How do you increase the risk so you are going to get caught using that exception-based processes, as you mentioned, reduce the rewards. So, even if you can access cash, it's going to be extremely minimal. Reduce provocations through overly complex systems, and then remove excuses. Those are the 5 tried and tested concepts, and they absolutely came out in the discussions of the session.
Well, I was so encouraged by this that we thought we'd pop back in a year's time and see how everyone's got on. So we're going to anniversary this meeting in October 2025. So we'll have to see what they've been up to. Certainly interesting that the world of automation, intelligence, cash handling, but also see some of the cultural elements from some of the other retailers. But thank you so much for doing that for us and providing that sort of quick takeaways. And we'll see you next time.
Brilliant. Look forward to it.
Thank you. Well, that's all we have time for this week. Thank you for joining us. And thanks to all the ECR Retail Loss community for the sharing of their knowledge, their research and latest learnings that ensure that we become truly a global platform for learning. My name is Colin Peacock, This is the Sell More and Lose Less podcast, and if you liked it, please subscribe so you automatically get all future episodes. And also, if you think your colleagues and friends might also like it, please ask them to follow ECR Retail Loss on LinkedIn and tune in to our next podcasts. If you didn't like it, then let us know and we'll try and fix it. Either way, see you next time. Thank you again.